Introduction. Welcome back to our chronological deep dive into the history of Marvel's Merry Mutants. Today, we are exploring one of the most somber and high-stakes periods of the original 1960s run. This chapter witnesses the return of Magneto at the height of his power, a historic crossover that bridges the gap between the X-Men and the Avengers, and a loss so profound it changed the team's status quo forever: the apparent death of Professor Charles Xavier. We will follow the original five as they transition from students to independent heroes, facing subterranean monsters, prehistoric threats in the savage land, and a world that fears them more than ever. Let's begin our journey with a crisis that pulls the Maximoff twins back into the shadow of their former master in Avengers issue 48. Avengers 48. The Power and the Pity. The story opens with the ominous return of Magneto, who has survived his previous defeat and is more determined than ever to assert mutant dominance over the human race. He has successfully located his former disciples, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who have been attempting to redeem themselves as members of the Avengers. Magneto uses his mastery over magnetic forces to infiltrate the Avengers' headquarters while the main team is away, seeking to reclaim the twins and force them back into his brotherhood. Pietro and Wanda are caught in a deep internal struggle. While they have found a home with the Avengers, Magneto's manipulative rhetoric about human hatred and the twins' biological isolation begins to wear down their resolve. Magneto exploits Wanda's recent injury, using it as leverage to force Quicksilver to choose between his human allies and his mutant kin. While the twins are being cornered by Magneto, the issue introduces us to a vital new character: Dane Whitman, the man who would become the Black Knight. Dane is a brilliant physicist who carries the heavy burden of a dark family legacy. He is the nephew of Nathan Garrett, the original villainous Black Knight who frequently battled the Avengers. Unlike his uncle, Dane is a man of high moral character and scientific integrity. Upon inheriting his uncle's estate, Garrett Castle, he is confronted with the technological and mystical secrets hidden within. Dane is tasked by his dying uncle to restore honor to the name of the Black Knight and use its power for the benefit of humanity. He uses his scientific genius to create a high-tech suit of armor and a power lance, while also working with advanced genetics to create Aragorn, his winged steed. Dane's journey is one of redemption for a family name he didn't tarnish, making him a unique hero driven by a sense of ancestral duty. His introduction marks a major shift in the Black Knight mantle, turning a symbol of villainy into a beacon of heroism within the wider Marvel universe. Back at the mansion, the Master of Magnetism successfully captures Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, whisking them away to his hidden island base before the other Avengers can return. Goliath, the Wasp, and Hawkeye return to find their headquarters ransacked and their teammates missing, marking a devastating low point for the team. Magneto taunts his captives, showing them the futility of seeking peace with a world that fears them, setting the stage for a global confrontation that will soon pull in the X-Men. Avengers 49. Mine is the power. Magneto's plan moves into its final, most dangerous phase as he issues a global ultimatum to the United Nations. He demands a sovereign territory for the mutant race, threatening to lay waste to the world's capitals if his demands are not met. He uses his magnetic powers to humiliate the world's leaders, effortlessly dismantling their conventional security and showing that no conventional army can stand against him. Inside his island base, Pietro's resolve continues to crumble as he witnesses a human mob attacking a mutant, which pushes him to believe that Magneto's extremist views are the only way to ensure his sister's safety. The Avengers launch a desperate rescue mission to Magneto's island, joined by the powerful Hercules. However, the Master of Magnetism is prepared for them, using the iron in the environment and the machinery of his base to trap and crush the heroes. During the heat of the battle, a tragic turning point occurs. Quicksilver officially breaks with the Avengers, declaring his loyalty to Magneto and the mutant cause. Pietro attacks his former friends, convinced that he is protecting Wanda from the inevitable betrayal of humanity. This is a devastating betrayal for the Avengers, as Pietro chooses the path of vengeance over the path of heroism. He uses his incredible speed to disable the heroes before they can land a decisive blow. Wanda remains conflicted, horrified by the violence but unable to abandon her brother in his moment of darkness. Magneto's triumph seems complete as he defeats the Avengers and prepares to broadcast his victory to the world, standing over the fallen heroes. He taunts them with the futility of their dream of peaceful coexistence. However, the heroes manage a narrow escape, realizing that they need far more power to stop the Master of Magnetism. The issue concludes with the Avengers in disarray, with Hercules being summoned back to Olympus and the remaining members feeling more isolated than ever before as the mutant threat looms. Uncanny X-Men 40. The Midnight Monster. The X-Men return to Westchester to find a mystery that feels like it's pulled straight from classic horror. Reports surface of a massive creature resembling Frankenstein's monster causing chaos and terror in the local countryside. Professor Xavier senses that this is not a biological entity but something far more synthetic and alien in origin. The team travels to investigate, finding a trail of destruction that suggests a being of immense physical power but very little control over its own actions. The X-Men track the monster to a remote cabin where they find it being hidden by a sympathetic woman who believes it is a lost, misunderstood soul. A battle ensues, and the team realizes that their standard attacks are ineffective against the creature's incredibly durable hide. Beast uses his incredible agility to avoid the monster's crushing blows, while Iceman attempts to freeze it in place. However, the monster displays a level of technological sophistication that contradicts its crude appearance, firing energy beams from its eyes that catch the team off guard. It is eventually revealed to be an android sent by an alien race to observe humanity and judge if they are worthy of survival. Professor Xavier uses his mental powers to communicate directly with the android, discovering that its circuits are malfunctioning because it cannot process human emotion. The monster's rampages were a result of its sensory overload. In a tragic conclusion, the android realizes it is a danger to the people it was sent to watch and chooses to self-destruct. The X-Men are left to ponder the nature of life and the heavy responsibility of those with great power. Uncanny X-Men 41. The Death of a Hero. This issue marks the beginning of one of the most significant and tragic arcs in early X-Men history. A series of massive seismic disturbances deep beneath the Earth's surface leads to the emergence of a new and terrifying threat, Grotesk, the last survivor of an underground race. Grotesk is a being of immense physical power, filled with a burning hatred for the surface world. New character. Grotesk. Grotesk is the tragic survivor of an ancient subterranean civilization known as the Gortokians. His body has adapted to the high pressures and extreme conditions of the underground world, granting him invulnerable skin and physical strength that rivals the strongest surface heroes. Grotesk's mind is consumed by grief and a genocidal obsession, the complete destruction of humanity. He believes that the vibrations from human atomic weapons triggered the collapse of his city, and he seeks to use an ancient, world-shattering machine to trigger a global catastrophe as revenge. He is a villain defined by his isolation and his perception of himself as a judge and executioner for his fallen race. Grotesk represents the unintended consequences of human technological progress and the deep scars left by the atomic age. His presence forces the X-Men to confront a foe who has nothing left to lose and who views their peaceful mission as a lie. Grotesk attacks a scientific research facility, intending to steal a device that will help him trigger his world-ending machine. The X-Men intervene, but they find themselves outmatched by the creature's ferocity. Professor Xavier monitors the battle from the mansion, sensing a danger greater than anything the team has ever encountered. He realizes that Grotesk isn't just a monster. He is a man with a broken soul who will stop at nothing to achieve his goal. The battle moves to the lower levels of the complex, where Grotesk begins activating the machinery. Cyclops and Jean Grey attempt to disable the device, while Beast and Angel engage the Beast in a physical struggle. The issue ends on a dire note, with the facility collapsing and Professor Xavier making a cryptic announcement to his students that he must leave them. Uncanny X-Men 42. If I Should Die. This issue is a historic landmark in X-Men lore, featuring the apparent death of Charles Xavier. The battle with Grotesk reaches its absolute climax as the villain prepares to detonate the machine that will shatter the Earth's crust. Professor Xavier arrives on the scene, revealing a shocking truth. He has been suffering from a terminal condition and has been using his remaining energy to prepare the X-Men for a future without him. He enters the machine's chamber alone, using his mental powers to hold the volatile device together while the X-Men evacuate the building. Inside the chamber, Xavier engages in a final psychic struggle with Grotesk, attempting to show him that life is still worth living. However, Grotesk is too consumed by his rage and refuses to listen. The machine begins to overload, and a massive explosion rocks the facility, consuming the chamber in fire and energy. The X-Men watch in horror from a distance as the structure is consumed. When the smoke clears, both Xavier and Grotesk are nowhere to be found, leaving only a crater where the laboratory once stood. The team returns to the mansion, completely devastated by the loss of their father figure and mentor. Jean Grey, who shared a unique bond with the Professor, is particularly heartbroken and struggles to process the finality of his departure. The issue ends with a somber funeral for Charles Xavier, attended by the X-Men and their close allies. This event sends shockwaves through the entire mutant community, leaving the original 5 X-Men to wonder if their dream of peace can survive without its founder. The weight of their new responsibility as the sole defenders of Xavier's legacy begins to settle in. Uncanny X-Men 43, The Magnetic Monster. In the immediate aftermath of Xavier's death, the X-Men are at their absolute lowest point. However, their period of mourning is cut short by the return of their greatest nemesis, Magneto. Magneto, having heard the news of Xavier's passing, sees this as the perfect opportunity to eliminate the X-Men once and for all while they're weakened by grief. He launches a brutal attack on the mansion, using his powers in creative and terrifying ways. The battle moves to a remote island where Magneto has established a temporary stronghold. The X-Men struggle to coordinate without the Professor's mental guidance. Cyclops tries to step into the leadership role, but the team's morale is shattered. Magneto exploits their emotional vulnerabilities, taunting them about Xavier's failure and the pointlessness of their struggle. Beast and Iceman attempt a surprise attack, but they are easily repelled by Magneto's magnetic fields. The power gap between the X-Men and the Master of Magnetism has never felt wider or more hopeless. Jean Grey realizes that they cannot win a direct confrontation in their current state. She uses her telekinesis to disrupt Magneto's equipment, creating a brief distraction that allows the team to regroup. The issue ends with the X-Men forced to retreat from their own home, leaving Magneto in control of the surrounding area. They are left with the sober realization that the world is a much more dangerous place without Professor Xavier to shield them. They must find a way to honor his memory by continuing the fight. Uncanny X-Men 44, The Angel and the Demon. Warren Worthington III, the Angel, takes center stage in this issue as he travels to a remote island in search of a rumored paradise. He discovers the hidden civilization of the Red Raven, an ancient race of avian humanoids who have lived in isolation for centuries. New character. Red Raven is the ruler and protector of an isolated island civilization of winged humans. Having found an ancient laboratory filled with advanced technology, Red Raven was raised by the original avian people and now serves as their guardian against the outside world. He possesses a set of artificial but highly advanced wings that grant him superhuman flight and speed. Red Raven is a complex figure who views modern humanity as a plague of violence and destruction that must be avoided at all costs. He is fiercely protective of his people's isolation and is willing to go to extreme lengths, including sinking his entire island, to prevent human interference. His interaction with the X-Men highlights the theme of isolation versus engagement, showing that not all super people are interested in the struggle for peace in the human world. He remains a stoic and somewhat tragic figure, choosing eternal sleep for his people over a life of constant conflict. The peaceful atmosphere is quickly shattered when Magneto arrives, seeking to recruit the avian race for his mutant army. The X-Men arrive on the island to rescue Warren, leading to a three-way conflict between the mutants and the avian warriors. Magneto uses his powers to manipulate the island's volcanic activity, threatening to destroy the hidden city. The battle is chaotic and destructive, as the island literally begins to fall apart around them. Beast and Iceman work together to dampen the volcanic eruptions, while Cyclops delivers a full-force optic blast to Magneto's personal shield. The Red Raven, seeing the destruction caused by the mutant conflict, decides that his people must return to their deep slumber to escape the reach of humanity. He activates an ancient mechanism that sinks the island beneath the ocean, forcing both the X-Men and Magneto to flee. Uncanny X-Men 45, The triumph of Magneto. The conflict with Magneto reaches its breaking point in this issue as the villain successfully captures most of the team. Magneto has established a specialized high-tech prison that nullifies mutant abilities, leaving the X-Men powerless and at his mercy. Only Cyclops remains free, and he must launch a desperate solo mission to rescue his teammates. This story showcases Scott Summers' tactical brilliance and his unwavering dedication to his friends. He navigates a series of deadly traps set by Magneto and the Toad, using his optic blasts with surgical precision to bypass security. Inside the base, Scott finds himself in a brutal confrontation with his former ally, Quicksilver. Pietro is fully committed to Magneto's cause, and the battle between the two mutants is personal and fierce. Meanwhile, the Avengers have also tracked Magneto's activity and arrive on the scene to assist. The team-up between Cyclops and the Avengers is a classic moment of superhero cooperation as they work together to breach the core of the facility. The final battle with Magneto is spectacular, with the combined forces of the X-Men and the Avengers finally proving enough to overwhelm him. However, in the chaos of the base's destruction, Magneto manages a narrow escape, taking the Toad with him. The issue ends with a somber meeting between the two teams. They acknowledge the growing threat of mutant radicalization and the significant hole left by Professor Xavier's absence. The X-Men return home, victorious but weary, knowing the war with Magneto is far from over. Avengers 53, In Battle Joined. The grand crossover event concludes in Avengers issue 53 with a massive battle that spans several locations. Magneto has regrouped and is using his mastery over magnetism to create an orbital weapon capable of disrupting Earth's electronic communications on a global scale. The X-Men and the Avengers launch a joint strike on Magneto's orbital space station. The visuals in this issue are grand, depicting the heroes fighting in zero gravity and against the backdrop of the Earth. Magneto uses the station's automated defenses to isolate the heroes, forcing them to fight in small groups. There is a poignant moment where Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are finally forced to choose between their kin and their found family. Wanda's plea for peace finally reaches Pietro, who realizes the madness of Magneto's plan. They turn against Magneto at a critical moment, allowing the Avengers to disable the orbital weapon. This betrayal is a crushing blow to Magneto's pride. The space station begins to break apart, and the heroes are forced to evacuate. Magneto is seemingly lost in the explosion of the station, although his body is never found, leaving a lingering threat for the future. The X-Men and the Avengers return to Earth, exhausted but having saved the planet. The issue ends with the twins deciding to take a leave of absence to find their own path. The camaraderie between the two teams is permanently strengthened, but the X-Men are still left without their mentor. Uncanny X-Men 46. The End of the X-Men? The X-Men face a period of deep internal conflict and reorganization in this issue. Following the fallout of the Magneto crisis, the team is struggling with their identity without the Professor. Cyclops becomes increasingly distant, burying himself in tactical studies and mansion repairs. Beast and Iceman try to maintain a sense of normalcy, but the absence of Xavier is felt in every room. This issue also sees the return of Fred J. Dukes, the Blob, who attempts to recruit other mutants for a new criminal enterprise. The X-Men engage the Blob in a battle that takes place in a local amusement park. The contrast between the fun environment and the serious battle is striking. Iceman uses his powers to create elaborate ice sculptures that double as traps, while Beast uses his strength to throw the heavy villain into the park's lagoon. During the fight, the team begins to realize that they have outgrown their roles as students. They are no longer just pupils in training. They are seasoned heroes who must define their own destiny. The battle is won, but the victory feels hollow to the team. The issue ends with the team gathered around the fountain at the mansion, reflecting on the professor's teachings. They decide to officially disband the school for the time being, with each member taking a different path to find themselves. This is a major status quo change for the series, marking the end of the Silver Age school era and the beginning of a more mature, independent phase for the characters. Uncanny X-Men 47. The Iceman Cometh. Bobby Drake takes center stage in this solo-focused issue. Following the decision to scatter, Bobby returns to his hometown to visit his parents. However, his homecoming is far from peaceful. He finds his community gripped by fear as a mysterious local figure named Gary Hall begins inciting anti-mutant sentiment. Hall is a charismatic and manipulative man who uses local incidents to paint all mutants as monsters. Bobby must hide his identity while trying to protect his family from the rising mob mentality. The situation reaches a boiling point when Hall organizes a protest that turns violent. Bobby is forced to use his powers to save several innocent bystanders, revealing himself as Iceman. The reaction of the townspeople is one of terror and hatred, which deeply affects Bobby. He realizes that the peaceful world Xavier dreamed of is further away than he ever imagined. This issue is a poignant exploration of prejudice and the personal cost of being a hero. The story also features the beginning of a backup series detailing the origins of the original X-Men. The first segment focuses on Hank McCoy's early life and the discovery of his mutation. This adds a layer of depth to the characters, showing the struggles they faced before coming to the mansion. The issue ends with Bobby leaving his hometown, feeling more isolated than ever, but more committed to the X-Men's mission. Uncanny X-Men 48, The Robots. This issue introduces a technological threat that pushes the X-Men's collective intelligence to the forefront. A series of high-tech robberies are being carried out by a group of highly advanced robots. The team tracks the robots to a hidden laboratory operated by a reclusive inventor who has lost control of his creations. These robots are programmed to evolve and adapt, making each encounter more difficult than the last. Beast is instrumental in this issue, using his scientific knowledge to identify a core flaw in the robot's programming. The battle in the laboratory is a showcase of the team's improved synergy. Cyclops coordinates the attack, while Iceman and Angel provide distractions. Jean Grey uses her telekinesis to dismantle the robots from the inside out. The intensity of the battle is high, with the laboratory crumbling around them. The issue also continues the origin backups, this time focusing on Bobby Drake's childhood and the first time he used his ice powers to defend someone. This adds a sense of continuity and world building to the series. The main story concludes with the team realizing that even as they work to find their own paths, they are still drawn back together by their shared purpose and history. They decide to maintain a loose connection, acting as a response team for mutant-related threats in a world that is becoming increasingly hostile. Ka-Zar 2, The Savage Land. The X-Men travel to the Savage Land in search of a potential new mutant signature detected by Cerebro. They are quickly ambushed by a tribe of prehistoric warriors who view them as intruders in their sacred territory. Ka-Zar and his loyal saber-toothed tiger, Zabu, arrive to assist the team, leading to a sprawling adventure in the prehistoric jungle. They discover a group of mutants who are being manipulated by a mysterious figure known as the Dazzler. New character: the Dazzler, Erasmus. The Dazzler, not to be confused with the disco-era Alison Blair, is a master of illusions and light manipulation. He is a member of an ancient subterranean race who has found his way to the Savage Land to exploit its unique energies. His primary power allows him to project vivid holographic images that can confuse and mislead his enemies. He uses this ability to command respect among the prehistoric tribes, posing as a godlike figure to manipulate their actions. The Dazzler is a cunning strategist who prefers to avoid direct combat, relying instead on his illusions to trap and neutralize his foes. He is motivated by a desire for absolute control over the Savage Land and its resources. His presence provides a unique challenge for the X-Men, as their physical strength and optic blasts are often ineffective against his phantom creations. He represents the manipulative side of mutant power, using his gifts to exploit primitive cultures for his own gain. The Dazzler uses his illusions to turn the tribes against each other, creating a state of civil war in the jungle. The X-Men and Ka-Zar must navigate the shifting alliances and the dangerous prehistoric flora and fauna. Beast uses his tracking skills to locate the Dazzler's hidden temple, while Iceman creates a bridge across a river filled with prehistoric predators. The conflict is intense, with the heroes constantly on the defensive against the Dazzler's psychological warfare. The issue ends with the X-Men captured and brought before the Dazzler in his inner sanctum. He reveals his plan to use the team's powers to amplify his own illusions, creating a permanent mental shroud over the Savage Land. Ka-Zar is left as the only hope for their rescue, as he navigates the temple's exterior defenses. The atmosphere of the issue is one of ancient mystery and high adventure, perfectly blending the worlds of the X-Men and Ka-Zar. Ka-Zar 3. The Final Battle. The adventure in the Savage Land reaches its conclusion as Ka-Zar launches a daring rescue mission to save the X-Men. He uses his knowledge of the terrain to infiltrate the Dazzler's temple, bypassing the illusions and the Guardians. Inside, he finds the team being drained of their energy by a massive crystal designed to power the Dazzler's illusions. A fierce battle erupts between Ka-Zar and the Dazzler, as the Jungle Lord uses his strength to counter the mutants' mental games. The X-Men are eventually freed from the device and join the fight with renewed vigor. Jean Grey uses her mental powers to see through the Dazzler's illusions, allowing Cyclops to deliver a precise optic blast that shatters the power crystal. Without his source of power, the Dazzler's illusions vanish, revealing him to be a weak and fragile being who had been posing as a god. The Prehistoric warriors, seeing the truth, turn against him and reclaim their territory. The issue also touches on the growing bond between Ka-Zar and the X-Men. They realize that they share a common goal of protecting the innocent, regardless of the world they inhabit. The story concludes with the X-Men departing the Savage Land, leaving Ka-Zar to maintain order in his primitive home. They return to Westchester, feeling a sense of accomplishment but also the weight of the tasks still ahead of them in a world without Xavier. This arc serves as a bridge between the classic Silver Age stories and the more exotic adventures of the later series. Marvel Tales 30. The First Meeting. This issue provides a retrospective look at the team's historic first encounter with the Blob. The story is presented as a series of reflections by the team as they look through old training logs from their time at the mansion. It details Fred J. Duke's initial refusal to join the X-Men and his subsequent attack on the mansion. The battle is a classic example of early X-Men teamwork, with each member using their powers in conjunction with the others to stop the immovable villain. The narrative emphasizes how much the team has learned since those early, more innocent days. They look back at their naive hope for a quick resolution with a sense of bittersweet nostalgia for the time before they lost the Professor. The issue also features a backup story detailing Magneto's first attempt to seize control of a military installation. This highlights the long-standing rivalry between the Professor's dream and Magneto's crusade. The issue concludes with a meditation on the cyclical nature of their struggle. Even as enemies are defeated, new ones arise, and old rivalries are never truly settled. The team realizes that the path to peace is a long one, but they are more committed than ever to seeing it through. This issue serves as an excellent recap of foundational themes. Conclusion: what an incredible sequence of events. We've seen the X-Men grow from a team of teenagers in matching uniforms to independent heroes in their own right. We've seen them face threats from space, from the underground, and from within the heroic community itself. This era established the groundwork for some of the most enduring rivalries and alliances in comic book history. Which of these moments was your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe as we continue our chronological journey through the X-Men's legendary history. Until next time.